conversation. Hello, and Nikki, where are you right now?
Hi, Terry. I am in Coogee, Australia, by the beach in New South Wales. Absolutely beautiful.
Oh, we have an Aussie in the house. Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
It's kind of like when you're walking down the street in Bali, because you mentioned you haven't been to Bali before.
I haven't, amazingly.
I can't believe an Aussie hasn't been to Bali, right? But it's really interesting that the Balinese are really insightful. They're very intuitive. So, you'll be walking down the street, and I mean, I get told I look like a European, and yet they know I'm an Aussie. And they'll go, Aussie. And then you say, oi
Oi, oi,
back.
oi.
But it's just a real thing over there. So, Nikki, you're known for your bright, vibrant warmth. And, obviously, you've even been given some nicknames: Happiness Queen, Sunshine, Light, Happiness. And I mean, you are basically the epitome of the rise of woman, and you live it and you breathe it, and you are just so centered in the divine of masculine and feminine. And I think this is what everyone's going to really love as they hear, what you are actually talking about and how you impact people's lives. But, I guess everything always starts with a story. And what I say is, Terry Messenger's Genius Zone. I mentioned in my last podcast, it really should be called our weakness zone, because it's got a lot to do with our weakness and how something that really stirred within us
Mm.
and didn't quite work out for us suddenly moved the compass and truly just elevated into our zone of genius. But I'd like to kind of kick off with how you kind of really understood that you were living through your sister. You were kind of looking at your sister as, I don't know whether you were looking at her as a role model or what that was. You can talk us through this, but
Yeah.
you were obviously seeing your sister's life playing out and wondering why the heck it wasn't happening for you. Can you talk about that? Like, tell us about what your sister was living, what you saw in her that, caused you to feel like, why isn't this happening for me? And, tell our listeners, how that really impacted your life.
Okay, sure. So for me, I was one of the main points. I was 37 years old, and I was breaking up with yet another boyfriend. And I was devastated, totally devastated. Not because I was breaking up with that boyfriend. He was definitely not right for me, but because I was breaking up again and I desperately wanted family. And this is where my sister comes in, because she was pregnant with baby number 4, and I couldn't believe it. It hit me to the core, because it was as though she was living my life, as though our lives had been switched. She was living on the beach in Byron Bay, which is our hometown, and with baby number 4 on the way, with a loving partner and a house on the beach and all the things that really mattered to me. And it was like our lives had been switched. I found myself this morning I was started to eat my breakfast, and I just started, the tears welled up, and I just really started to cry and fall apart, and I just felt absolute rock bottom. So that was the epitome of that point in time. I just felt so rock bottom. It was a real dark night of the soul. Like, why can't I make this happen for me? How is this possible? And I just was crying and crying. And in that moment, one of the guys from work called, and he couldn't believe he found me in that position, because I was always the bright, sparkly, happy, wisdom for everybody. And he was just like, oh my God, pull yourself together, in that moment. So there was no space for that. And miraculously, his wife was in the car next to him, and she'd overheard that conversation. And she called straight back and she said, Nicky, I don't know what's happened, but I can hear you're at rock bottom, and it happens to all of us at some point. Here's the number for my kinesiologist. Go and see her. She will help. She's beautiful. And it was like an angel swooping in that moment, this opportunity, something to do, some step to take. And so it's all I could do that day was book this appointment. I went, and as I walked up the stairs of this beautiful light-filled room, the essential oils smells came in and everything just started to lift. And I climbed up onto that table feeling super fragile. And I watched as this woman asked my body questions, and my body responded with this wisdom that I just had never seen or known before. And it was mind-blowing and beautiful and holistic, and this incredible rest place of seeing this self-awareness and from this restful place, which and acceptance of being in this falling apart place. And so at the end of that session, she said to me, practice some more quietness and stillness going within. And I said, I practiced yoga. And she said, great, do more of that. Do more of that. And so when I went to yoga that night, I asked about teacher training, and I signed up for teacher training. And at the yoga center, I practiced it. It was a 2-year deep dive. It was a complete spiritual journey.
Oh,
And so
yeah. Yoga is one of the most absolutely respected disciplines I've come across. I think yoga is so underestimated, really,
yeah.
because every single yogi that I know, that they really have some of the best practices, but a lot of them are woefully underpaid.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think in the West it's become very much part of the exercise regime rather than the deeper journey of the yoga practice. Um,
Mm.
Things change with the times, but yeah, so that was a massive turning point for me. I went into that deep yoga journey, and really that was about shining the light within and actually learning who I was and what my needs and wants and wishes and desires were. And so I went really to the core of my being. And that was the incredible journey of realization with my sister, that I'd been trying to live a life that matched her values without even realizing. This is how these inner barriers are so invisible to us.
So did you actually tell her, Nicky? Like, did you say we've, switched lives, or did you ever explain that to her?
No,
How
I
you've learned?
don't.
So she didn't know.
Yeah, I don't. I tried. This is one of the situations that I had with my sister, and this is how I'm so passionate about women supporting women, because we, for her, it seemed more of a threat to have a conversation like that rather than a safe place to unpack it and to be there for each other. And I've been through some tough times with her, but the main thing, because I love her to bits, and I know she does me too, and realizing that she doesn't love me any less ever. It's just there isn't this capacity or this allowance of women being in listening, understanding, hearing, holding, all of those things. And it's not a threat in any way. So, and that's where I think, this is
She
more
needs to switch with you. So it sounds like she needs a little bit of you and you need a little bit of her,
yeah,
So it could have gone both ways in this case.
yeah,
But I hear you. So, and I
yeah.
feel like this really aligns in with a lot of your story too, which we'll go deeper into a little later, because, you're talking, from the place of how many women are just channeling themselves into being that person for other people,
Yeah,
and yet also feeling closed down, to some degree.
yeah,
And you've got a really good explanation for, those women out there. And I know men listen to this podcast too, and we never exclude you men, because I work with the men and the ladies, and I know that even if a man gets to hear the way another woman feels, the way that we think, that's going to really empower you men out there, anyways. However, one of the things that, really happened, apart from the fact that obviously you had that moment at 37, that
Mm.
realization, and I love the story. I love the way you talk about even as you were going up the steps and taking us through that whole, I mean, it's part of your mastery, right, as a
Mm.
hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
And that you're already doing that kind of hypnosis by allowing us to almost imagine what that fragrance of aroma of smells that's coming out of the
Yeah.
room as you lay down on that bench, and this lady puts her hands on you and discovers that the body is actually, like the book, is keeping the
Mm.
score, because the body can't lie,
Yes.
right?
Right.
And yeah, the body just cannot lie. So,
Mm.
how incredible. Like, I thought it was the weirdest thing, like my husband's a chiropractor, and I thought it was the weirdest thing because, like, when we got together, there was a lot of speculation and all talk and everything around that. And I remember my kids feeling quite anti and feeling a little bit sort of held back by, who's this new man in mum's life? And, he's a lot older than me and all those things. And if there was one thing that I remember came back to us, that kind of really was to confirm that maybe I was falling for a weirdo, it was when he put a purple book on one of them and opened it up, and the book could actually see where the problems were in the body. But this book, Nikki, like what you're
Mm.
talking about with the
Yeah.
kinesiology, it holds like trapped emotions. Like, it can even tell if a person's been molested, what age that happened. And it's so bizarre. But when you were telling that story,
Yeah.
that kind of like flipped up. But you obviously grew up feeling like you were living underneath a lid, like that
Yeah.
and this is like, you're like a soul sister. I
Yeah.
totally resonate with this. And even in our pre-chat, as you were talking me through this, I started having visions. And you're talking to a really good hypnotherapist when it provokes visions in the facilitator.
Yeah.
Like, I was having
Amazing.
visions of being closed down by family members. But can you talk us through, so our listeners can really understand, what it's like to sort of grow up or be in this world where you feel like you've got to
Mm.
be down, you've got to have that lid on, and where you can't really exude your full expression. Can you
Yeah.
talk me through this, and even where it comes from? Because I know that there'll be people going, oh yeah, when I was a little child that happened to me.
Yeah.
So let's hear your story of growing
Mm.
up as a single mum.
Yeah, so we grew up with a single mum for a few years in Wollongong and then moved to Byron Bay when I was just 6 years old. And that's where I grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So very blessed to have grown up there. So the way that I think I can express that the best is that I just don't think the arena that I grew up in or anywhere that I was, it wasn't even such big experiences, but it's all, I had that a lot in my life where I just feel like I was too big for the environments that I was in a lot of the time. Like my full expression being in a being a woman in a patriarchal society. So I don't have anything against, I think the patriarchy is very important and was very important for, the masculine elements. However, when we're born to be bigger, we're bigger all the way along, and it just doesn't really fit in with the societal conditioning. And so I constantly felt like in little experiences all the time that I was being shut down and the experience of life was shutting me down, not totally, but just from being my big full expression of energy, of excitement, of enthusiasm, of celebrating others, of celebrating myself, definitely celebrating myself. Like I remember at gymnastics one time, and I did some tumbling thing and I was like, wow, that was so good. And everyone just shut me down because you don't speak about yourself like that. It's like
Especially as
bragging.
an Aussie, right? Don't you
Yeah,
reckon it's a real
maybe.
Aussie
Yeah.
thing to be the underdog, and the tall
Mm,
poppy syndrome is so
yeah.
huge here in Aussie. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And so, even like you described to me a bit like I was seeing that story of the crab in the cray pot, where the crab is kind of trying to crawl out the top, but all the people in there, all good meaning, all
Yeah.
with the right intentions, are trying to pull it down. But you were
Yeah.
talking about how you had a heart for helping out your mum, and
Yes.
how your family were
Yeah.
really trying to pull you back. Can you talk us through that? Because you would have been just a little
Yeah.
child at that stage.
Yeah, it's just because mum was single mum, I just really saw that how much effort she made, how she was doing everything on her own. Like she was an empowered woman, but that was through full on intention of these kids are not going to miss out because I'm a single mum. And so we had every experience. We went water skiing and snow skiing and camping and on the farm and rode horses, and we did all of these incredible experiences. Like my mum is an amazing powerhouse, and she was very driven by that experience. And I remember when we first moved to Byron Bay and went to school there, she was a school teacher. Um, and it was almost, Byron Bay was very conservative back then in the 70s, interestingly. And so it was almost frowned upon to be a single parent. So I watched mum navigate these places. So first through watching that observation, but one of the experiences that you're mentioning there is when we were camping in Tin Can Bay, and I think there was a big storm had come in and there was sand flying everywhere, and we'd come back to the tents and everything was out of control, and I just quickly went straight to help mum. And also at the end of the day, I remember making her a cup of tea and looking after her because I had this drive to care for her. um, and and that would often be rewarded as it is these days with like an ice block the next day or something, which is never was the drive for me to do any of these things. But I remember being picked on by my brother and sister, goody two shoes, and always wanting to do the right thing, and getting rewards for it and all of this. And it was obviously just kids being kids and then putting me down. But that was another experience for me of feeling like, don't be too good, don't be too this, don't be too that, just
Don't
be
stand
smart,
out.
don't
Yeah.
stand out, don't
Whereabouts
stand
are
out.
you in your family tree? Like where your brother and sister are? Are you in the middle? Are you the
Smack in
youngest?
the middle. Smack in the
Right.
middle.
So
So
you're
my
the
sister's
yeah.
15 months older and my brother's 15 months younger. So three kids very close together. Yeah.
Fantastic. So you're right there in the middle. And it's hard to believe you grew up in the 70s, Nikki. I know a lot of our listeners can't see you, but you look so good. And I feel
Thank
that
you.
as we go along and you hear Nikki's journey and what she does and how she's turned her life around, you'll be able to understand. Because sometimes when you see a person, it's when they look vibrant, when they are looking younger for their age, when they've got so much going for them, it's because they're living their life purpose, and you are the epitome of that, right?
Yeah.
And everybody has their cross to bear. I always say this, and I look on the other side. I feel like I'm a soul sister with you, where
Yeah.
I felt very much pushed down, but unfortunately mine became to the point where I kind of believed it in the end. And I recognized, like, because I've been dealing with people for so many years, I realized that women especially, they get into their 30s and
Mm-hmm.
it's like everything catches up with them. And they say that midlife crisis happens 40s, 50s and beyond. I beg to differ. I feel like the real midlife crisis, whether it be for women going out on a high, living their best years or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like the estrogen years where estrogen is at a all-time high,
Yeah.
and suddenly everybody kind of remembers their childhood. Suddenly everybody's realizing what they have, what they haven't got, and it's like that starts to get to that point of, well, where's my life going now, you
Yeah.
know and you are a great one for shining your light, and really living and breathing that. And I guess from where I see you is that the problem was in your relationships. And this is not with the girls, this is with the guys. So you obviously had a string while your sister got married and went on and had the life that you felt that you wanted so much, and you felt that was your life. Do you think, because what I'm hearing is that you kind of went after the guys that weren't quite,
Mm.
aligning with yourself? Do you know what you were attracting? Like, can you see a pattern through a lot of the men
Mm.
that you were dating or going out with, where there was the learning that Nicky had to have? Like, because obviously people come into your life for a reason.
Yeah.
What do you reckon was the greatest learning you had to get to 37 and then go, something's got to change here?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think like everything, nothing changes unless you change. And so, really, for me, it was realizing that I wasn't choosing my partners. Instead, I was going with, it was more like when somebody was attracted to me, going into
Being
that
chosen. Oh
relationship,
my
being
gosh. Is that what you
chosen.
mean? Is rather
Yeah,
than choosing, being chosen?
being
Oh my gosh.
chosen.
I just had to
Being,
really open that up. Did you hear that, ladies? Don't
yeah,
wait to be chosen. Anyway,
yeah.
go on.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's huge. You don't realize, we're hoping, oh, we might meet someone, and then somebody shows interest, and it's like, oh, I've been chosen. Like, so then I would spend my time trying to fit in and make that relationship great. But I wasn't meeting from a place of authenticity in myself. I was, going in, molding myself to be attractive and to be a right fit for that person, and then feeling the consequences, like, you know, being made small to fit in. And I was always leading all the joy and the adventure and all the excitement in the relationships, but it wasn't in a balanced way. And there was a couple of times. One time, a partner and I missed a plane in New York, and he looked at me like it was just totally my fault. And I was like, there's two of us here. Like, you know what I mean? And I realized that I took responsibility for everything in the relationships. And,
Ah,
you
so you're
know,
the responsibility chick as well.
yeah,
Another thing that you and I have got two, three,
yeah,
but just
yeah,
another one, like waiting to be chosen.
yeah.
Like, yeah. And I wonder, look, I really just want to open this up, Nikki, if you don't mind, because I know that
Mm,
there's a lot of people out there that are wondering why they're not attracting the right relationships. But I'm having a flashback to school days, and when I was in a girls' school, and we had this dance,
mm,
and we had all these guys coming along, and it was the first dance, where we were going to be with the opposite sex, and because I was so used to being the ugly duckling, and I kind of changed, and I've already told that story, but I sort of really grew my hair. I'd taken my glasses off and all the things. And I remember we were all standing there and we had to wait to be chosen.
mm,
And I remember thinking to myself, no one's going to pick me, right? No one's going to pick me. And then having this, like, because of my past experience, thinking, well, hang on a minute. What if I turned this around? What if I looked at all these guys and thought about, like, who would I like to pick me? And do you
mm.
know, in that moment, I'll never forget it because I was shocked. I was surrounded with five guys and I had to choose one because
Amazing.
they had to come and pick. But you know what? just in that, from a psychological reason, because I'm sure you would be you are the expert on this because you've lived it, breathed it, and obviously gone through this. But
Yeah.
I wonder if there's so many people out there that become so desperate and, like yourself, looking over your shoulder at your sister. So you're doing the
Yeah.
whole comparison thing. You're almost doing, like, a lot of people will do the envy thing too, like they envy people. And
Yeah.
I know Dr. John D. Martini says, that envy is ignorance and comparison is suicide to the success that you want, because it
Mm,
just kills it off. So while
yeah.
you're looking over the shoulder, what if you became the person who could just finally stand back and go, well, what do I want? Rather than what does the world want? And I think just having this conversation with you, and especially backstage, what I'm hearing is that you are also, because you're such a giving person by nature,
Yeah.
and very altruistic in the sense of you wanting to be that person to help your mum, you being that person to be focusing and channeling your energy into other families' relationships. And
Yeah.
then what happens to Nicky? So, what happened? What was the turnaround? What made you go? I mean, you had the kinesiology session,
Yeah.
and what made you go, right? Okay,
This
this
is
is
a
going to
great,
change.
yeah, this is a really clear moment. So, this story is when, so it's just 5 years ago now. So, because I'm about to celebrate the 5th anniversary with my partner, my current life partner, who's my man. So I had broken up with this guy who was much younger than me as well. So then I started attracting much younger men, which was interesting when I first dated on, online. And I'd had this relationship with this guy, and I was doing exactly the same repeating patterns. And so this time we'd already broken up, and he was living overseas in France, and he was coming back into the country, and he rang me, and he all this anticipation, Nikki, I can't wait to see you. I'm so excited to see you and connect and see how you are. And it was just sounded very real and natural and as friends. And I was excited to see him. And it was around my birthday. And when he got into the country, I texted him, and I had a busy schedule with birthday celebrations. And I said, so are you here? Are we going to catch up? And he wrote back to me something absolutely appalling. I can't even remember, something really derogatory and horrible. And it was insane. And in that moment, I went to make an excuse for him, and I started to type, gee, that is bad jet lag. And then I caught myself in that very moment and thought, wow, look at me abandoning myself, making an excuse for his appalling behavior, and just totally abandoning myself. And I just stopped in my tracks, and I drew a line in the sand, and I saw it so, so clearly. And I said, never again will I abandon myself and accept behavior that's just not acceptable. And so I drew that line in the sand. It was incredible, an incredible
Oh, that's so
clarity.
good. So
Yeah,
you just, yeah, and yet I feel that, your gift in being able to see the best in people, another
yeah,
likeness that you and I
yeah,
both got,
yeah,
where you will see, like, if you saw some of the guys I went out with, Nikki, I mean, you'd die with a leg in the air. Not to be a visual, but I mean, some of the people I chose,
mm,
I feel like I almost talked myself into it,
yeah,
but it was almost like I would do the same thing. I relate.
yeah,
Oh, they're like that because
yeah. Make excuse.
they can't help it. That's just the way they are.
Yeah,
And yeah, but how long? And it's interesting because my daughter calls me out on it even now.
yeah,
Like, I will say something when she'll say something about someone, and I will give a kind of a different perception, being the all ever perception queen that I am. And
mm,
she'll say, Mum, why are you making up an excuse for that person?
yeah,
And really, I'm not making up an excuse from where I'm standing, but I'm I guess I'm trying to protect her from feeling hurt and
Yes.
get her to see it in another way. But that doesn't always work. And I think,
Yeah.
you've really proven that. And I noticed too along the way, obviously, like, can I ask, how old were you when you met the man of your dreams, like your
Met my
now man?
dreams. Yeah, my partner now. So I was 48.
48.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you look 38.
I'm now 53. So
You're a tricker. You are a tricker, girl. Okay, guys, you need to get into
Oh.
whatever she's got. There is definitely a silver bullet. Okay, so you were that age when you finally met your man. I'm kind of wondering whether people, when they're so desperate for something, instead of attracting it, they're pushing it away.
Yeah.
And, I saw it about money as well the other day. And one of my mentors was saying the reason that money comes to me so easily and effortlessly is because I don't second guess it. It's a part of my life, and it's like the air that I breathe. So it's not I desire it, I desire it, I desire it. And,
Yeah.
I want that, I want that, I want that. Because really, when we're putting out that want, what we're really doing 9 times out of 10 is putting out a lack, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I feel like the universe 20 years prior God knew exactly what was in store for you, Nikki. And he put a book in your hands. And he actually, like I always say, it doesn't matter what happens to us, how bad are relationships that we've ever got into. There's always a great teaching from each and every one of them.
Yeah.
And when you were 18,
Yeah.
a guy gave you a book. Do you want to tell us about this book and tell us a little bit about it? Because I'm always looking and, for good reads anyway on the show. And because it's got such a spiritual connotation
Mm.
to it,
Yeah.
would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, so for my 18th birthday, my partner at the time, my boyfriend, gave me a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And it's the most beautiful book. It's a short book, and it's a story of a prophet talking to a community of people. And the community are asking him questions about the different areas of life. And when I read this book, it had such a huge impact on me because it was like my understanding about spirituality and the world and humanity had been written down in this really short book. And I just was blown away that that my spiritual beliefs and concepts, which I never talked about because my family wasn't religious, so we didn't have a religion and we didn't talk about it. So I said I have my own beliefs, and it was always just my secret. So when I read this book by Khalil Gibran, I was just absolutely blown away, and it just opened. I think it just reestablished my connection. It was like remembering who we are and what we came here to be. And one of the main ones is like, speak to me of children. And he said, our children are the arrows that we shoot forth from the steadiness of our bow, being the parents. And it was like a permission piece to go forth and be your great self, like to be that arrow shot forth into the world, like that we're not the property or the ownership of our family and our communities and our culture. We're actually free spirits, flown forth in the world to become our great selves. And so I think that was the main piece that really spoke to me. But the whole book did, and it just was connected me and gave me permission about spirituality. And also, when I connected deeply to the yoga spirituality and the philosophy of yoga, same again. It was like, oh my God, my understanding of spirituality is all here written down. Like, who knew, So
Wow.
that was mind blowing to me. And I guess that's one of the things I teach, that, we are conversing with the universe all the time. We're a part of the universe, and that intuition, like what lights us up, and those little drops in that excite us, and those energy bursts, they're guides guiding us along our way. And actually, if we could just peel back the layers and listen to what lights us up, the journey unfolds in the right aligned way. So that's what I've been doing since starting my coaching journey, like really deeply and with more purpose. And everything's fallen into place. My highest value is family, and I met my life partner with 2 incredible stepkids that are soul family. I'm sure we've been together in previous lifetimes because we know each other
Wow.
deeply. So,
Oh, what a gift.
so I
And
see.
I hear you, and now I can understand why you have created such a all-powerful program that takes people on this beautiful voyage, this journey
Yeah.
from where they are. And even if it's not around relationships, it's a really, the universe doesn't know whether you are missing the vital relationship factor, or whether it's the money factor, or it's the health factor.
Yeah.
It's whatever factor you are missing in your life. And this program that Nicky has designed, founded, and created is a step by step to actually awaken you into being that person of who you were called to be. And it takes you back to the remembrance. So I'm going to go through that in just a moment. And I'm so excited to do this because as you listen in, viewers, what you're going to find is you're going to really, really not just hear something that's so powerful, but it's going to give you some vital steps of how to do life just by hearing the modules that Nicky has actually created. So, I was just listening to a podcast this morning actually, and a guru who was just talking on the spiritual realm. And I truly, truly believe what he was saying, in the fact that, our body, our humanity, our ego is just so kind of, I don't know, fallen. And it's so effed up, if you will.
Mm.
And it's just so, I don't know, it's so subject to the world
Mm.
and what's out there, and it's measurable, where our spirit is infinite, it's immeasurable. And I was
Mm.
having this moment, the other day, like, because I do believe in God. And, I know that the Bible says we go to a place called heaven. And I was having this kind of argument with myself about, well, what is heaven anyway? Because I, like you, had a spiritual relationship with this,
Mm.
higher entity when I was a little girl anyway. So it was always there. And what I came to know, Nicky, is that, without that higher source, what have we got? But do
Mm.
you mind if I take people through this beautiful, juicy, powerful program step by step with you? Because it's just so exciting. And I'm going to open up each each module as you have designed it, which is just so, so, so incredibly good. But we were talking about
Yeah.
standing on the rooftop together
Yeah.
and looking at what happens to this incredible woman when she has reached almost like her higher self. And, you described it as obviously the magic of your hypnosis, and where they've flourished and
Mm.
where they've opened up themselves to their
Mm.
greatest talent. And I know that that's where the community really does really expand. But talk to us about how you do this deep dive into this magical hypnosis world, where they just open up and flourish into their
Mm.
talent. What does that look like and feel like?
Okay. So hypnosis, and I'm also done a lot of yoga and meditation, as you know. So hypnosis to me was just the most incredible modality in terms of it's meditation with an absolute purpose. And so we can reprogram and change things that we choose to in our subconscious mind from this deeply relaxed, beautiful place using the brilliance and creativity of our own brilliant mind. So hypnosis to me is incredible. And so for the last part of the course, in the last module, we do a beautiful inner resources hypnosis, which is just a gorgeous journey of, after we've been through all the steps in the program and really created the vision. So each individual person is creating their vision in this most beautiful, colorful, creative visual way that means everything to them inside their own minds on a group powerful journey of deep relaxation. So it's
do
like,
you feel like, do you
yeah.
feel like people when they are, because you talk about it being the
Mm.
power of flourishing into your greatest, purpose, talent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do you see that, like, because you're talking to a community, that everybody has their own kind of geometrical coding system of color and
Yes.
symbols and shapes that represent their
Yeah.
higher purpose?
Yeah, 100%. I believe that we have everything within us. Like, just like, it's the destiny of an acorn seed to become an oak tree. So I believe that we arrive here with all of that potential untapped within us, and we can grow into whatever oak tree we choose to. But this process that I take people through, it's all about relationship to self, uncovering those layers, getting so deeply connected to themselves and that purpose, and that potential, that then that has the ability to come forth and they can truly shine their unique light in the world, like permission to be 100% uniquely you. And so I can do a group hypnosis where everybody's creating their own vision in the hypnosis. Like, I'm igniting that within each person, but they're doing the creation. And I'm holding the space and creating a beautiful, deep relaxation so that the free flowing experience can permeate every cell in their body and become their new reality and their new story.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Now, in the module 7,
Yeah.
it's all around the power of vision.
Yeah.
And it's like the power of vision into your crystal clear life. Like,
Mm.
talk me through what actually happens here when people have got, because obviously you've done so much work, which we're going to go deep into in a moment.
Yeah.
I'll go down into your program with you. But at this level, at level 7, this is where the power of vision, the visionary, comes through. you
Yeah.
know what is the way that you awaken that vision in people?
So, well, it builds through the whole journey, of course, of the Together We Rise journey and all the other modules. But by the time we get to module 7, people are so connected deeply to their true yearnings and their true desires. And so they're creating a vision for the first time from that place of authenticity. And so I take through a series of journaling questions and we answer the questions we do a meditation first to really reconnect deeply to that place within where the desires have been getting clearer and clearer. And then we build a vision through answering the questions that I take people through. And then we go into breakout rooms and you get to share your vision with an individual and hold that space for each other. And that's where the power is, because, it's when we share and we speak out loud and we hold that space for each other that we can see it. We can mirror back to the person and they can see their vision coming to life. So, but the point is, from at module 7, we're so clearly connected to our true authentic self that the journey of creating that vision is coming from that place of true authenticity. So the vision is usually different to what it's ever been before.
And guys, don't worry if you are in that position of going, well, I don't know what I
Yeah.
want, because we're going to take you down deep now so you
Yeah.
can hear exactly from the top. So Nicky's talking about
Mm.
where you are when you come out on the other side of her program. And, you know, we don't expect, and I know Nikki doesn't expect you to be able to just have this powerful vision, crystal clear, of you being this amazing, empowered person living the life of your dreams with all the details. But, you know, did you have a moment like, I know that I had a Chris Howard moment, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but
Yeah.
I had a moment where, you know, way back in 2006, I was doing all the NLP stuff, right? And I was an
Yeah.
absolute, I was like one of those groupies. I was going to every show, and I'll never forget it. Like, this is a packed out auditorium audience
Yeah.
where all the seating is like this. And Chris Howard is really out there saying, you know, anchoring us into that, what it feels like, what it looks like, and getting us to see. And, you know, to this day, Nikki, I still use that anchor that he taught us at that show, on how to bring myself into that incredible, incredible vision. But do you have a moment where you were able to really see your vision and really manifest it, that you can perhaps share with the audience and talk us through about, you know, what you saw in yourself, how you
Mm.
created it, whether it was journaling it, what you said in your journal, or what
Mm.
you were actually delivering, and what you do even with your clients to really help that person out there that's
Yeah.
listening, because a lot of people just don't know. They don't
Yeah.
know how to tap
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah, I really believe in the power of connecting deeply to how you want to feel in a relationship. So for me, when I thought about visioning about the partner that I wanted to be with and having a family, you know, and I was in my 40s already. So this was, you know, once I started to see the power in our own abilities. So for me, it's not around the detail of all of the image. And so for some people, it really is that visual detail. For me, it's how it's going to feel from the inside out. And so what I talked about in my journal and what I imagined being with a partner is just being able to feel my full expression and being celebrated in a relationship, in my love relationship with that, and being able to truly celebrate my partner, so that we could, you know, that we were, the vision was like we were holding hands together, connected, but looking out into our own visions fully. And one of the elements that I brought in was that I wanted to be able to call him my love, and that's all we call each other, my love, my love, my love.
Oh,
That I could call my partner my love, and that it was truly landed absolutely deeply and correctly. And so we have been each other's my love since the beginning. Like, it just flew, you know, it just flowed for both of us. And so it was like being, you know, that whole thing about not having that lid on it, or being my full expression, being celebrated for that, creating a life together that fulfilled all of our needs, being able to see and hear each other, being able to talk about the hard things, being able to navigate life. So I just brought it down in my journaling to all of the things that mattered to me. So it wasn't like what he looked like, what he did, you know, it was like all of that stuff actually doesn't matter. When you have true love and true deep connection from a place of authenticity and who you really are, that's what I wanted. And I was so clear that's what I wanted. And it's absolutely what I found 3 months after I drew that line in the sand. You know,
wow.
3 months, I just was like so clear. And you know, it wasn't when I drew the line in the sand, wasn't when I wrote that visualization. That was beforehand. You know, you write it, you know it, you're clear about it, and you let it, forget about it, to the universe, hand it over. And so
Oh,
3 months
that's
later,
powerful. Did everybody hear that? You write it, you think about it, you feel it, and then
yes,
you let it go.
yes,
How powerful is that? Isn't that letting go business? You would know,
yes,
Nick, like
yes.
the art of surrender. That's got to be a very vital piece.
It's a vital piece. So yes, absolutely. And I think let go are the two most powerful words we have in our humanity, like letting go. Like we hang on to stuff so much, but letting go. So definitely in manifesting, I absolutely believe, and visioning, create that beautiful vision, feel it, see it, hear what's being said. So for me, my love and being able to have tough conversations and the real elements were all there, and then let it go. And then 3 months after that line in the sand, I decided to go on 3 dates. I booked 3 dates online dating in 1 week. And I was like, I'm just going to go and meet some men and have a nice time. And no expectation. No expectation is another element. And I literally went on 3 dates within 1 week, and they were all lovely. But Amir was definitely the one I connected deeply with on a heart
Wow.
level. And yeah,
So did you hear that, guys? No expectations. Go
mm,
in there as a clear, just this clear channel, and
mm,
yet know the feelings that you want. And as you heard what Nikki just said, she wanted to feel like she could be a full expression of herself. She also had that my love, which
yeah,
is like an audible sound, and what she's hearing with that beautiful connection. And,
yeah,
whether it is that you are going to be connecting inside Nikki's program, with the ultimate relationship, maybe the one you've already got, maybe the one that you're longing for, but maybe it is that you are really longing for that calling on your life. Like you're really desiring to be living into that life that you want. You might be feeling like a slave to your job, or, absent in that money sense, or feeling like you're not living to your true potential.
yeah,
This is really going to take you through these very clear modules. And as you're listening to them, this is going to be very healing for you, even just listening to Nikki's story and what we're talking about. But of course, then comes the next module, and we're going from the top down. So
mm,
we're getting sort of more to the middle, where we're talking about boundaries. You know it, Nikki. You only
mm,
need to express yourself here because I've got it all here, right?
yeah,
You've already given me the gold nuggets. But the creation of boundaries so that you can stop putting your energy into other people's lives
yeah.
and start working on yourself. Would you like to
Mm,
really explore how important boundaries are, and some of
mm.
your own story and what you know about the importance of boundaries?
Yeah, so boundaries is a really an amazing one because we're not really taught boundaries. And so one of my favorite sayings is balance and boundaries. If we can create balance and boundaries in our life, especially if you're thinking in terms of the wheel of life, I often get people to fill in the wheel of life as a snapshot of where their current satisfaction is in the different areas of their life. And usually we see that it's a very bumpy ride. There's elements where it stands out and elements where it's lacking. So um, for me, when you can create healthy boundaries, you create balance in your life and you can have an ease and flow journey. And so what was happening for me is I was prioritizing other people's needs. I've spoken about this a lot, and I was kind of known as the other mum to many friends and families. And I'm also godmother to many kids because I loved family, I loved kids, and I didn't realize that I wasn't leaving any space up front for my needs and my wishes and wants. So it's all part of the same theme. I was, directing all of this energy into my highest value, which was family, but it was other people's families. And so learning to create boundaries around my time and my needs and actually bring into the forefront, filling my cup, becoming who I wanted to be, choosing partners, like, being so clear about who I am and going out into the world. So learning to say no is a huge one, and learning to be clear on what you say yes and no to is how you create boundaries in your life that keep you doing the things that align for you and that matter to you. And our values, which is the module before this, is one of the really best ways to have a pillar of how you choose. A lot of my modules before this are about how to choose your boundaries. They're how to
Which
check
will
in with
certainly
yourself.
go deep. We'll go deep into that. So
Yeah,
I love the way you said that you've got to be able to say no,
yeah,
because the no becomes the bigger yes when it comes around.
yeah,
But what was it like for you, Nikki, when, suddenly you had to give up channeling all your energy to other people
yeah,
because of your natural personality and that
yeah.
warm nature you've got, and work on yourself? What did you find as a result? Do you feel that it enables you to give more as a result, or what can
Yeah.
someone expect when they develop boundaries?
Developing boundaries. Yeah. So the results from that are incredible. So for me, then I was able to listen to what my needs, wishes, and wants were, which was my whole journey, and I started to craft a life in alignment with that. So following what lit me up and doing those things, and I created my own tribe of friends. I found ocean swimming, which I absolutely loved. And I started to create a life that filled me up and gave me so much energy and light to share with others. So I was even more of myself. And I often say to my clients, imagine if the entire world was giving from an overflowing cup. Like if we learned to fill our own cup first and be full on all of our needs and personal care and sleep and all the things that matter, and we were giving from that place, it means we're giving from our whole authentic self rather than from that depletion or lack, which most of the world is going around doing. And that's the norm in our society. And so
That's a
learning,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a huge paradigm shift. So when
yeah,
you're giving from the overflowing cup, you've got so much more to give. It makes
yeah,
sense, really, doesn't it?
yeah,
It's really not, rocket science. Can you tell me about the ocean swimming? I'd love to hear about that. What do you
yeah.
do with the ocean swimming?
I swim in the ocean every morning. Not today because it was pouring rain for the first time, and there's Sydney streets empty onto the beach, sadly. So that's the day to avoid the ocean. But I am an ocean swimmer. So I grew up in Byron Bay. I absolutely love the ocean because it was right there on my doorstep. And now, um, but I just played and frolicked in the sea, and I was comfortable in the sea because I grew up with it. But when I was walking one of the early years in Sydney from Bondi to Bronte, and I saw swimmers going along the coastline, I was like, oh my God, what is that? I want to do that. And I went to yoga that night, and my yoga teacher, I said, I'm going to learn ocean swimming. And he said, I'm doing it. Come and train with me. And so I went and learned to swim in the ocean because anything we want to do, we can do. So a lot of my coaching is around what are the skills and capacities you need to develop to create the life you love, because often we're missing those. And so I saw that it lit me up. And in that moment, I said, I want to do that and I can. And so I found, how do you learn ocean swimming? And I went to train at Bondi Icebergs with Spot Anderson, who's the triathlon champion of Australia, just the person who happened to be training. And he actually said to me, can you swim 500 meters freestyle? And I said, well, I don't know because I have never tried. And he said, well, it's a straight yes or no answer. And I said, yes. It was very funny. And he said, okay, the key to ocean swimming is when you jump in the pool, swim as slow as you can, like you're about to sink, and then keep going until you hit 500 meters. And literally, that was the key. Like I swam
Wow.
500 meters freestyle nonstop as slow as I could. And then at the end of that, he said, swim 100 meters as fast as you can. And the only difference between the 100 meters as fast as I could and as slow as I could was hardly any time difference. It was all energy expenditure.
My gosh, that's a gold nugget right there.
Yeah.
Did you hear
Yeah.
that, guys? I mean, my niece swum to Rottnest,
Amazing.
and what the yogi always believes too, that nothing great happens in a rush. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that you kind of like really go slow for
Yes.
that, first initial climb, and then you get to the last 100 meters and you go like the clappers. So I
Yeah.
love that. That's so cool. And, listening to that too makes sense, because I love working out the psychology behind people's, what they are actually giving to their clients through the program. And I noticed that what you just described, like swimming being something that you really love and that you love doing, and the fact that that's something that you value, right,
Yes.
is truly an aspect of the next module that I believe connects into aligning your life with your values so
Yeah,
you can be living on purpose. I told you you don't need to look at any notes because I have all your
you do.
nuggets here. You've told me, you've given me your secret sauce. So
Yeah.
talk us through, you know, the way that you really help people to align their values and what's so important about that.
Yeah, okay. Values is one of my favorite things because it's literally what really matters to you. What do you value in life, and what do you truly value from your inner self, from your heart? And so the way that I help people elicit this is, we all know what we love, and so that's the first element is like complete the statement. I love to. For me, it was like I love to swim in the ocean. I love to spend time with family and friends. I love to feel healthy and energized. I love to be present with my love. I love to read personal growth and human potential books. So it's just keep going. I love, I love, I love, and writing all the things that you love to do, that you love to feel, that you love to hear, that you love to eat, etc. And that's just getting really connected with, the things that you love in life. That's a really great place to start. And then it's like, step by step, it's like, how do we feel? I look around with, this was from Dr. Demartini actually, because he is the values legend, and so I've taken a lot from him because it makes so much sense. When you look around your space at work and at home and at work, what do you have there that lights you up? What do you make space for in your home, and what really matters to you, and what sits there gathering dust that you think you want that perhaps doesn't really mean anything to you at all, or that you have there to look at but you don't use? Does it have any meaning or importance? So we start to really drill down, and then, how do you spend your time? Where do you make time? What do you make time for? How do we choose to spend our time? Our time is finite. So, for me, one of the realizations was that in that story I was telling earlier is that my highest value is family, or my second highest apart from health and wellness. And I was spending time in family, but it wasn't creating my own family. It was spending the time in other people's families. And so I was being fulfilled in that need, but my greatest desire was to create my own family. So it's where we can also start to see where we're getting those needs met, but not in the way that's aligned with our vision. And so it really helps to pull apart what's going on the inside. Also, where do we spend our energy, and where do you spend your money? What do you make important enough, to spend your money on, etc. And so, the evidence is all around us. It's just starting to pull it in and make meaning from it, understand how it's benefiting you, how it isn't. And so this is a process in the program that people do on their own, through me asking the journaling questions. But when I'm one-to-one coaching, we go really deep on this. We can go
Of
really deep
course.
and start to see how to make,
You know,
change.
I have to applaud you, Nikki, because you've just given possibly one of the greatest gold nuggets on how a person can tap into their values. Because quite often, this is a really hard subject to teach on.
Yes.
And how do you get people to really tap into their values? Now you've just given a really powerful clue. Say I love first. If you say I love to dance, I
Yeah.
love to walk in the park with my dog, I love
Yeah.
to meet up and really just be that person and impact
Mhm.
people's lives. What do you I love drinking alcohol. Obviously that is one that you want to try and change if that's the case. But what do you love? And even when it is something negative like that, like if it is something like I love drinking alcohol or I love eating food,
Mm.
then what you've got to do is what the way you could swing that around, because that's really powerful, Nikki. I love that because it's sort of shown me too that you can go, well, what is it that you love that you thought that alcohol was giving you, you know? And then
Yeah,
if it is that that person thought it was giving them some kind of a freedom, then it's not the alcohol they love, it's the freedom. So that
correct.
they can switch it around to
Yeah,
I love freedom. If it's about the food and I love eating food and they're being honest with themselves, well, we know that that's just a habit and it's not a necessary, it's only good when you're doing it in the right way. So if
yeah,
you're overeating, you can be asking yourself, well, what is that food that you think that you're loving giving you? And if it is fulfillment, which I know is one of your values because you teach and preach about that, well, it's not the food or the love of food, it's the love of, it's that fulfillment. And then you
yeah,
can be asking yourself, what can I do to fulfill myself? So that is
yeah.
gold.
Mm,
And, you know, that is a huge clue to our listeners just in right there. So if you didn't write that down, guys, write it down and get crystal clear. And speaking of getting crystal clear, we're getting close to, you know, where the rubber hits the road here. But module 3 is all about the law of vibration and
mm.
awakening the energetic. And the gold nugget that I heard you state here about this module is that it helps make life decisions. Would
Yes.
you like to really talk us through this law of vibration that maybe a lot of us find a little bit woo woo, and what it
Mm.
really means, and how that can help people to awaken their energy and make life decisions?
Yeah, okay. So energy is just such a huge one for me. I just think, well, everything in the world is energy. I mean, this has been proven, and matter is energy in dense form. So energy is everything. Um, Energy levels within us. So understanding how to raise your vibration and bring, and actually what tops you up and what takes away from you, what gives you energy and what drains you energy. So we drill down here into understanding more about yourself. This is all journey within. And, another way to understand energy is like our thoughts, our beliefs, and our emotions all create an energy vibration in the world. Like we all know what it's felt like to walk into a room where somebody's angry or upset. The elephant in the room experience. We've all felt energy, and we are carrying our state of energy around with us always, and that's what's bumping into everybody else's. So it's another area in balance and boundaries too. But the way that we really step in, that I take people into their understanding their energy and transforming their energy so they can transform their life, is seeing questions like what gives you energy and what drains your energy. So we can start to really
Mm,
think about those things and what people give you energy and what people drain your energy, and just start to be bringing an awareness into your life about how your energy is being expended, and is this by choice or not by choice, and is that how you want it to be or not. So it's another place where you can become aware of this on an energetic level. One, you're getting more connected to your whole being, and two, you can start to see where you're giving away your energy where perhaps you don't choose to. And also, one of the next questions is what lights you up? Being lit up is an energetic experience from the inside. So, what lights you up? What makes your heart sing? What makes you happy? What makes you joyful? What puts you in that state of presence and flow and creativity where you forget about time? So, that's also energetic. And then, I ask questions like, if you were in the next 48 hours given time off from your work and your kids and given thousands of dollars, what would you go and do with that? Like, it's spontaneously dropped in on you. Here's, 1 week with all the money that you want, free time. Where in the world would you like to go and what would you like to do? And when people are like dropped into that spontaneity question, it's like, where, that's when their true desires are coming forth, that what lights them up drops in really quickly. Because for some people it's, understanding that they're an introvert and they want to go and curl up on a couch somewhere with a log fire and be in their own space and just be by themselves and get their energy topping up that way. Other people like to go and be in community. Other people like to, go and have a lush holiday skiing or swimming in the ocean somewhere beautiful, or a yoga retreat going within. So it's really getting to know what fills your cup from an energetic point of view. And getting to understand what are the self-care practices that you need in your life to top up your energy, because filling your cup is really being topped up energetically, being topped up on food, rest, sleep, all the things that matter, and that make you feel topped up. So raising your vibration is really understanding how to manage your energy, be aware of your energy, and feel it flow, ebb and flow. Yeah.
And that's module 3, everyone. So, this is pretty close to, when you're coming in and you're doing a deep dive and getting through all the muddy waters, and then getting into that space where you're suddenly moving into your own vibration. And I love that you also bring a lot of the practical application here, Nikki. So it's not just the woo-woo side of it, but it's also helping that person that's kind of rationalizing things to understand, energy, like, where do you feel your best? What are you doing? And I had all these kind of visions when you were taking me there of driving like a black convertible sports car and then being in the jungle and just kind of being me in that beautiful spiritual space of being with people and connecting with people. So it's amazing how having a facilitator that talks you through, just listening to these podcasts, and please subscribe and share if you're enjoying this, and give us a review, because these are really powerful, informative gold nuggets right there, even before you're jumping into the program itself. But of course, we also then need to navigate through the muddy waters. And in module 2, it's the crystal clear clarity of your true inner self being your identity. Would you like to really speak on this topic from that point of perhaps how people don't have much crystal clear clarity, really, and how they don't have that concept of who their true self is, and what this module does to really switch and help that person to become the true identity that aligns with their higher self?
Yes. Okay. So in module 2, we go into to set a destiny intention, which is getting really clear about which area of your life you'd like to work on throughout the 8-week program. And this helps really ground in, because the idea is when we find the core area that means the most to us, it will have the biggest ricocheting effect out through our entire life. So we journey within to choose an area of focus that matters the most. What is your deepest yearning? Which area in your life do you deeply yearn to create? So, for example, somebody might come into the program, really wanting to grow their business and focus on that. But what they uncover in the first module, and that journey deeply within, is that what they're really deeply yearning for is to meet the partner of their life. Their life partner who they truly connect with. And that is the deepest yearning, deeper than growing the business, but it's being pushed aside because of the want to grow the business, for example. So, we go into a deep meditation that goes within, and what is really missing? What are you really yearning for from the inside out? And this is the place where we can choose to work in, and then I ask questions about, how do you most desire to feel in this area? And we just drop really into that specific area. So everyone can be working on somewhere different on this journey. So it might be your relationship or your business or your health and wellness. There's space for to be working on, because we're working from the essence and the core of our being. So, and it's understanding that deepest yearning is often the one that's being pushed to the side because you're trying to do life and keep up with the Joneses and create the life that and the vision that you think you want. But actually, what is it without that partner, maybe, or what is it without that health? If you don't have your health, how are you going to be able to enjoy what you're creating otherwise? And so often people really uncover here an area that they have been ignoring, that's been too hard basket, that they don't believe they're worthy of in some way or another. And so this is a safe place to really feel that, uncover that, and go, let's lean into that area for this journey.
Wow, I love that. I love what you said on how that takes them into the inner core of their essence, of their true
Mm,
self.
mm.
I believe that really just went in. Did you feel that go in, guys? Like, could you feel, Nikki's words just kind of like diving right into the center of your being and just bringing that out in you so you can become crystal clear about who you are? Wow, absolutely love it. And look, the fact is that we know, and I know that when people come to see us, they've got a problem.
Mm,
Like, that is what this is all about. And we're always going to have a problem. And I feel that, when you've got enlightened people like you
mm,
and I who really value personal development, really value our spiritual higher
mm.
selves, we're going to continue to have problems. This is not about being perfect. Like,
Yeah,
my problem's just new level, new devil, so
yeah.
it's not like we're perfect. But wherever you are right now, what Nikki is really doing is she's taking you on a journey so you can break through what you are, where you are now, so you can move
Mm,
into that next plane, so you can shift. And everything she's spoken about from the top of
yeah.
where you are quite an enlightened person, and your talents and your gifts and your intuition and your boundaries, your vibration, your clarity, and everything is really coming through. Well, this is the what I call the reality check, and it's the first module. It is the breakthrough module. It
Mm,
is uncovering who you are, but getting through those muddy waters, breaking through that inner barrier on your discovery of self. So
mm,
let's hear from you, the authority, on breaking through these barriers into
mm,
the journey of self discovery. Talk
mm.
us through this and what we can do right here and now.
Okay. So this is the area about breaking through, uncovering and seeing your inner barriers. So that place where you've been feeling stuck, where you have those repeating patterns and self-sabotage in your life, and it keeps happening, and you do everything you can to use all your willpower to overcome things. So what we do is we really drill down. The three main areas for women that we have those inner barriers are around I'm not visible, I'm not enough, and I am alone. And they're the three main ones. So in the program we work with these, and we want to uncover what they actually, how we're hitting up against them. And they're an invisible barrier until we start looking at these pieces through the questions that I guide you through. We can't see it, and until we can see it, we can't transform it and break through it. And so understanding which of those patterns, and sometimes it's all three and the elements within them, are playing out for you, that's where we need to look and really do the work, uncovering those self-limiting beliefs. And because this is the lens that we're looking at life through. We're looking at life through this lens of the limiting beliefs that have been created since childhood. Like, I think we've all experienced that. And so we have a belief that's either supportive or negative, and either sabotaging or supportive. And that's the belief then is what creates the decisions that we make in life. And so then the decisions, we look at those and they're either going towards or away from our goals. And often we're making these actions and decisions around away from our goals for fear and safety. And when we can start to uncover those, we can start to see how we're doing that and how to build the courage and the presence to be able to choose wisely how you want to choose to move in the direction with your vision and your boundaries and your energy into your best life. So then, our decisions create our actions or our inactions, and our results is what we're looking for, like to, what do we want to create in our life? So we drill down on each of those three main inner barriers, and that's actually it's actually module 4 that we do that. So we've done this kind of deep dive first into ourselves, because we want to see what our true desires are, and then we say, okay, what's stopping us? What's actually happened in that area of your life? What actually happens when you go to create there? So we drill right down into what actually happens, and then we can see which pattern is playing out for us. And, my one-to-one coaching program is where we do some deep processes. Matrix therapy is clearing negative influences from your childhood, where you can, on a subconscious level and with your inner child in a really positive, beautiful journey, can start to unravel and change those underlying beliefs that are preventing you from creating what you want in life. And it's through no fault of your own. They were always created for a really important purpose, to keep you safe and alive. And so that's part of the Together We Rise journey, is that we're in such a safe container that we can explore these things without any shame or guilt. We can explore them with absolute open hearts and minds, and just see that we're all doing it in some way or another, that we all have these inner barriers, and that when we can see them, the week, once we've started to really see them in a specific way they're playing out in our lives, then that week between the sessions of the program is to really notice all the times you're doing the behavior that's playing out that inner barrier. And that's where the power is for women. We need to see it. We need to see it so clearly to be able to change it, because we're playing our role. Everything that's happening in our life isn't happening to us. It's happening for us, is one of, and this is, we are playing the other side. So even if you're in a toxic relationship, you still have to be playing the other side of that role, which is not standing in your own personal power, to be able to have that experience. And so when we start to grow and change ourselves out of those patterns into an empowered self, an empowered human being without playing those roles, we can see that we're playing a role. You feel like, this is happening to me, that person is doing something. For me, it was again, it was, around my sister, and she can't see, and she this and she that and she this. And it's like, well, what role am I playing in that? How am I being invisible? How am I abandoning myself and allowing that to happen? Nobody's intentionally destroying anyone or doing anything wrong by anyone. They're literally protecting their own self. Everybody's running their own show. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I remember, because I heard you're a Dr. DeMartini person as well, and you do a little bit of his stuff, and I did his certification back in 2008, and I remember him saying, are you going to be the master of your destiny or the victim of your history? And this is really what Nicky is talking about, because we all have those life experiences where we really need to tap into what we're saying to ourselves, what we do need to break through. And you can hear here how you can break through where you are at. And not only that, but rise together in a community that you'll be held in with this beautiful lady. Because, Nicky, this community that you've got, and this program that obviously is, we always bring in the timeless, ever evolving programs that
Yeah.
we know if somebody's looking and listening to this in 5 years from now, they're going to know exactly who you are, what you're about, and what your values are. And that is what I'm completely dedicated to. And I am so incredibly impressed with what you are giving to the world. So I'd like to ask you, do you have any last words, mottos, philosophies that
Yeah.
you would like to share before we close down?
Sure. Yeah. So really my biggest motto and philosophy around this time is that it's time. It's the time for the feminine to rise. And that doesn't necessarily mean women, not men. We all have the masculine and feminine within each and every one of us. And so now is the time for feminine empowerment to rise up and for the divine feminine to meet the sacred masculine, I believe, within us, within our families, our culture, our countries, and the world. And I believe that this balance will restore the planet and humanity, and we will become heaven on earth, basically. I totally believe together we rise, together we rise. And my programs are for women currently, but I know I'll be working for men as this builds momentum, and working with men, because it's about the change and the balance, the rise of the feminine to meet this sacred masculine. And the Dalai Lama prophesies that Western women will change the world, and I believe he's talking about, because we are in the seat of possibility and potential to bring this forth. And I think that the coaching industry has the most incredible power in terms of we can't become ourselves by ourselves, holding space for each other and being in that place where it's safe to explore and unfold and really shine your unique light in the world. If we all are just doing what we came here to do, the world will be in balance. So that's
Wow.
my
Wow.
message.
Wow. Wow. So together we rise. Thank you so much, Nicky Pullen. And remember, guys, the links to join her program are in down below. So just click, get in contact with this beautiful lady, and rise. Thank you, Nicky. I'll see you soon, gorgeous.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you so much.